Okay, well, thanks for taking time out of your day to come and talk to us about a subject that I actually feel quite passionate about myself. I really admire people like yourself who have a skill that obviously has taken a lot of time to perfect, and also ultimately what you produce. I mean,
it is a craft. And it's one of the most basic crafts on the planet, originating back from BC. It's a natural product. Yeah. Man's desire for shelter, use that to start with, the stone to build, for cover, hunter-gatherers. So whilst I don't go on site with a loincloth and a club in my hand, it is a passion of mine. And every stone is unique, every stone's different. And sometimes I get the feeling that when I split a stone or shape a stone, I'm the first one on the planet to see what's inside. So it's quite, it can be quite emotional at times. I've been doing it for 42 years now. It gets, it can tweak those little sort of Neanderthal thoughts in your mind, how they used to operate years ago, and my techniques tend to be as traditional as they can be. Yep. I try not to use too much electric, so it's hammers and chisels and shaping and carving, and it's a joy because, like you say, at the end of the day, you have something that wasn't there before, and it's a natural product. Yep. And it takes time, but I think you've got to have that in your veins. It's got to be in your blood to sustain 42 years. In a job that's taken me 42 years, most people don't have one job all their life. But I've been privileged, and health-wise, I'm still here. You said you have an affinity with stone? Yeah,
we don't get to use enough of it in the houses that we build because obviously it is an expensive cladding, and a lot of people limit how much that they can actually put into the building. Yeah. But I really like the texture of stone. Yeah. It gives so much character to a building.
It does. It's prominent.
Yeah.
And with regards to your clients and your customers, is it just the cost that's inhibiting them?
Yeah, and unfortunately what's happened in recent years is there is a lot of composite products on the market.
That's against my religion, that.
Yeah, and unfortunately they end up being sold to people as a more cost-efficient solution, but as you know, they don't look like the real thing. Some of them look pretty close, but if you know what you're looking at.
And that's something I've always prided myself on, is that if you use a natural product, no matter how close you get to it, it's always going to look its core value. It's always going to have the tactile approach, the visual approach. I mean, a lot of stone I've seen recently, people have asked me to come, years back, when I first came to the country, they asked me to come and say, do you lay stone? And I can come and have a look. And they've got these modules of precast shapes, whether it's a letterbox or the exterior of a property, and you can stand back and you can look at the pattern, and that's not what I'm into. It's got to be random. No stone's the same, and like you say, with regards to the cladding, it might be a cheaper option, but at the end of the day, what do you want? Do you want something that you're going to be sat there with your barbecue and your friends and looking at it and thinking, I wish I'd have gone for the real stuff, because I can see where that's the same as that. Yep. And it can be a shame, but that's what it's all about. It's those people like yourself who value it and know what it can give. That's the idea. That's the people you want on board. I've never had one client who has frowned upon the use of the quantity of the stone. They've always encouraged me to use more, and whenever I've gone to a job, most of my jobs are what I call while you're here jobs, because I'll do the initial fireplace or the paving, and then say, while you're here, do you think you could have a look at the pillar there? And before you know it, what was going to be 6 weeks' work is now turned into 4 months. Yep. And it's great because they appreciate it, and that's what I like. It's giving the customer what they want in an old, traditional sense. No adhesives, no mitre cut corners, just the natural stuff out the quarry. How good can it get?
How do you find the local stone here? Is there many options here? Or?
Yeah, I sometimes go as far afield as Hokitika,
Yeah.
down to Westland Schist,
Yeah.
who have been a supplier of mine sporadically over the years. But generally, I'll go to Wakefield Quarry, where there's limestone.
Yeah.
They've got a particularly good vein at the moment, if you call it that. Although it's from the top of a bluff there, it would have been at sea level millions of years ago. Because as it's risen and it's come out in usable chunks, which is great. So and it's actually up the top, and there's various bits of sea sand, and so to have something that's sort of 150 feet up that was at sea level. Again, it's the history. It's the thought of using that material that's been around for millions of years,
Yeah.
and trying to get the homeowner or the building contractor to appreciate that it's natural, it's real, and you can't get better than that.
No, you can't. No.
So what about yourself? You say you don't incorporate stone a lot, or people don't want it, or it's just too expensive?
Well, the last house that had quite a large amount of natural stone we built about 5 years ago up Stringer Road.
Okay.
And that stone was actually brought up here from Central Otago.
Yeah.
And I think that tends to be a problem for a lot of people here, is they like the look of certain stones, but it has to be brought in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for us it's just finding that next project basically where we can encourage people to do that.
How would you turn people to using natural stone, if they've got an indication of using stone at all? How would you get them to okay it and say, yes, this is what I want? Or do you take them around and show them previous properties?
Yeah, we do. But there's because we only have a limited amount of properties like that people have used real stone. We don't have a lot of options to show people. So, obviously, I'd be really interested in seeing the stuff that you've done, because obviously
it's around. It's here in Nelson and down at Monaco and Stringer Road. I did a property at Stringer Road as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there, and I get a lot of pleasure out of that, because people will have an idea and we'll talk it over, and I'll suggest ideas, usually to my own detriment, because it involves a lot more work, and I'm thinking, why the hell did I say that?
Yeah.
They want an arch now, or a couple of pillars, or whatever. So it can prove to be quite taxing, but it's a challenge. And if I can show them work that I've done and the product I've used, then that's got to be a plus. And most of my work comes from word of mouth.
Yeah.
So it's what they've seen or who they know that have used it. And then it's a case of just reinforcing the fact that I go down and I collect each stone by hand. Sometimes I remember them as they go in the wall, and I think, I remember you with that awkward looking stone. But they all go in, and it's just having that eye coordination with that random feel for a quality job. So it's a joy. It's my passion.
You would have over the years developed an eye. You can pick those stones quite easily. Yeah,
you can, and sometimes you throw in the old ugly one that you know is going to give that little bit of tactile, a little bit of profile, light and shade, all this sort of stuff. I mean, to me, it gets quite romantic after a while, because you're dealing with a natural product and you're just giving that overall feeling. And I think the emphasis is on doing a job where not one stone sticks out.
Yep.
So you're looking at it and it's just a random attractive blanket, as opposed to, there's a funny shaped one there, and your eye always gets drawn to that. So it's just something you pick up over 42 years. So, but no, I think I was naturally that way inclined from school. Arty, crafty. I was okay at school, I was one of the lads, I suppose. But yeah, I took pride in anything sort of woodwork, metalwork, and I think this is where I was ultimately aiming to go. What about yourself? Have you got you're in the UK?
No, I haven't been to the UK.
You've never been in the UK?
No, not yet. No.
If you like stone,
Yeah.
that's an ultimate destination, and Florence in Italy, and just mind blowing.
So is that where you obviously you started your career in the UK? Did you work in any other places in Europe?
No, only England. I was born in Plymouth in the southwest of England, in Devon, surrounded by stone,
Yep.
cottages, and done a lot of work on barn conversions, which incorporates a lot of the natural stone in the area. That was fantastic because you're working on properties that might be 600-700 years old, which is unheard of in New Zealand.
Yeah.
But to just find out, and you gain a lot by being on site and dealing with properties that were built then, because you can see different ways that they would have adapted,
Yeah.
and how they would infill in between the two stone leaves, and then it's just a case of following their lead, because you have to match what's there, and that's what I like.
So obviously in the UK, because you don't have earthquakes, a lot of structures are basically an infill wall, and that's
it's cavity walls. Yeah. And years ago, that was the product, stone. There was no blocks, or to a certain extent, not that many bricks. A lot of timber, again, a natural product, fantastic product to use, and incorporate the two, and you've got a recipe for something special.
That's right. Yeah, timber and stone were meant to be together.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
you see them in nature. So
exactly, trees and earth.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So what brought you into the line of, is it you designers and builders?
Yeah. So our company basically controls the whole process for people. We can introduce them to a designer.
Yeah.
We can take them through right through to the full build process, and everything in between. So obviously I've trained as a carpenter.
Yeah.
And
Nice to hear you say carpenter.
Yeah. So
most people say a hammer hand, don't they?
Yeah. So, and there's a bit of a misconception around that term builder, because a builder is sort of a broad term that generally applies to somebody who is running a business, who is providing a building service.
Yeah.
First of all, you have to learn to be a carpenter.
Yes.
And I employ carpenters in my business. They, to me, don't become a builder until they go and start their own business.
Right.
So, there's a bit of a disconnect there, with people think, you're a builder is just a broad term for somebody who builds things. But
Well, I remember when we first contemplated emigration from the UK, and I thought the easiest way to do this, to make everything work, because we had to meet a certain points criteria to come over here as a family. And to know that the country wanted the skill that I had and the skill that my wife had. And I was forever online looking for job opportunities, and it was builder wanted. And over in the UK, if you're a builder, you're it's masonry work mostly. You call in the builders, it's mostly masonry work with sand, cement, mortar, bricks, whatever. So I thought, oh great, it's masonry based, and it didn't until you just said, and obviously I found out in later times, that a builder is not the builder in the UK, it's the builder in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So that took me a bit of a shock to think, crikey, I've got to be more specific and more specialist in my approach, and find out where to go. But I mean, it was worth it. I came over here and started up again, and a bit like being a new kid in school, no friends. Out in the sticks, but we got there, and I've put in flyers in letterboxes in Richmond and whatever, just to say that I'm in the area. Give me a try. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you won't be disappointed, and it's come to fruition. And 13 years later, I've got plenty of work on. Only one-man gang, only work on my own. Yeah. Which sometimes puts a lot of people on the back foot, because they think, okay, well, if this guy's working on his own and he's a tradesman and he gets tradesman's rates, and we're paying him to do the lumber, but that's what I do. Yeah. From picking the stone to leaving the job clean, it's all me, and that's what you get. It's 42 years in the making.
Yeah, and that's what most people should expect.
Yeah.
Because it's it's a complete craft, isn't it? You can't have some guy who is being with you for a few months selecting stones and handing them to you, because he's not going to have that skills.
And it's a shame, because I would have loved my kids to have followed in my footsteps, as it were, to be in that line of work and construction, or something creative. They've all gone their own paths now, and they're all very successful, and I'm glad of that. But my daughter Jessica, if she could have just turned her hand to, she's a girly girl, but if she could have been a little bit more physical and got out of bed a little earlier, she could have come on site with me, and she could have been, I don't know any female stonemasons.
Yeah.
You know, she could have been a lady stonemason, and she would have been sought all over the place, because I mean, that alone opens up a whole new aspect of careers for girls and women who, and the stonemason world and bricklaying and block laying is predominantly male. So, which is a shame, because the ladies out there have a good eye, and they have good technique, and give them a chance, and I'm sure they'd stop the world.
We actually talked about a similar subject not that long ago about trying to encourage more women into construction, and it's changing people's perceptions on. Traditionally, people said, "Oh, you know, they're not strong enough; they can't handle it." But all the rules have changed now, and it's not about how strong you are. It's all about how smart you are and how you can solve the problems. And
no, but it would be great, and I would have loved that, because I'd be teaching her the skill now, as I'm 60 now, so gradually going towards retirement, it would have carried on. But I've tried over the years to have various youngsters involved, but it's hard going. I'm not a taskmaster by any means, and I'm very fair, but when the first thing they do when they come on site is, what time do we stop for a cup of tea? Whoa, I think, oh no, you know, and you're 10 minutes late anyway. You know, I wouldn't hold them to time, but I'm just thinking, turn up, because it's an opportunity. It's a privilege to work with what I work with. And it's seen me raise a family and move to different parts of the world and construct my own property in the UK and meet fantastic people here and work in wonderful locations, and have a fantastic clientele. Why wouldn't you want that? Why would you just want to, you know, work in a factory or you know, go to school and then be a student and struggle when there's a trade there? And like you say, you don't have to lift huge weights. I mean, over the years, I've had a good understanding of fulcrums, levers, pulleys, wedges. It gets you pyramids. The pyramids, for God's sake, you know. I mean, that isn't just picking a stone up and doing it. It's moving it in a certain way. That's right. And that all comes with experience. Yeah. And I have that experience, and it's a sod when you can't get somebody to think like you do. But there's only a few of them around, hence why there's not many stonemasons around. Yeah, we've lasted the test, if you like.
Unfortunately, it's a dying trade that those skills are being lost, because, I mean, do you have people seek you out as someone who can teach them how to be a stonemason?
And my family, the kids have often said, well, why don't you teach? Why don't you... In the UK, I could have occupied a place in the, not the university, but schools that would introduce children who are about to leave school to the building trade and to the trade that I've got, and it would have been great. But you know, I was preoccupied at the time with my work and my family and thinking about emigrating. But it's something I'd thought about in the past, because there's not many of us around, and it's a shame, because that is, as soon as I stop, you know, as far as Simon Starr and Starr family, that will be it. But I've left a legacy. I've left my work. And on each wall I get the permission of the homeowner, and I write my name on it. So, and on occasion, especially the one down at Monaco, built that for Chrissy, lovely lady. We brought my son's son and daughter down at the time. She was only 6, I think, and the little one was only a tacker, and I had her pick a stone up and put it in the wall. She didn't know what she was doing, and wall's done, but photographs, and she'll be able to bring her grandchildren and say, I put that stone in my granddad 40, 50, 60 years ago. I mean, it's great. It's a fantastic... And I put stones in, and I think, this one's for that one, this one's for Louis, this one's for Alfie, this one's for Arlo. And I remember those stones. But no, it's a fantastic opportunity. So it's a shame just when they're more interested in that.
I know. I really don't understand that. It's something that...
It's sign of the times, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
It's the easy opportunity to fulfil some other aspect in life and get an easy day, because my job is not easy.
no,
You know, I've got the back to prove it,
Yeah.
or I haven't got the back to prove it, whichever way, as you would know. I mean, there's certain aspects in the building trade that you think, this is going to be a tough day or a tough week, or wow, what are we taking on here?
Yeah.
And that's another beautiful thing, is that you can commit to it and then you are obliged to do it. And I find that a big asset
Yeah.
for people to say, well, what do you think of this? And I say, yeah, that's no problem. That's no problem. And then you're committed, and then it's an education again. And you complete it and you think, what was I worried about? And you get there, and it might be threatening or imposing to do this, but that's what it's all about. It's progressing.
Yeah,
And
that's
you
right.
know that.
Yeah,
I
you've
mean,
got to challenge yourself.
have you had customers that wanted things that you thought, whoa, can we accommodate them here, or is it going to be a problem? I mean, you might.
Yeah,
you have. Good.
Yeah, but I like that. That's something
Exactly.
that motivates me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're throwing out the gauntlet, saying, you know, we want this particular aspect of the house, and with a weirdly shaped roof, and what do you think? And you think, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
It's different. I mean, you deal mostly contemporary designs.
Yeah.
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 So that's where the stone is eliminated to a certain extent, or just for features, nothing structural.
Yeah, it's not really used structurally here. Obviously, coming from the UK and coming to New Zealand, you've had to deal with the seismic side of things that you didn't have over there.
To an extent, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the jobs I do aren't, you know, they've obviously got a reinforcement aspect to them.
Yeah.
But the basics are the same.
So for an example, if you were doing a freestanding wall, would it have a masonry core inside it? Would it be blocks and then
Most of them
faced
have
off?
had to be. Never used to be when I was in the UK. But yeah, the job down at Monaco and the one on Hope Road there, the customer themselves incorporated the help of other individuals to prepare the foundation and the steel. And the one down at Monaco had 30 cubic metres of steel, and 30 cubic metres of concrete in this one particular stretch of wall. It wasn't a long wall, 6 tonne of steel, because it's all based on sand down there. So, and then I come and I put 180 to 200 mils of stone around it, and cap it off. But it's finding those stones, it's finding those cornerstones and shaping them, and structurally, ornamentally, interior, exterior, whatever it is. Give me a pile of rock and I'm happy.
So did you say you carve stones as well?
I do carve. Since I've been in New Zealand, I do a lot of Oamaru stone carving.
Yeah.
Only commission based. I've had a few in the past that I've been very proud of, and we've rugby themed ones, and one that's at hospice at the moment that we donated there. And but yeah, people will come to me and they'll say, but then that's another thing. They'll ask for something specific, and then when they say, what's it going to cost? And when I think of some of the ones that I've done, and they've taken, 50, 60, 70 hours, and it's worked out that I've had to charge something like $20 an hour. And you think, because people won't pay $10,000 for something like that, they'll think, oh, that's a lot of money, but that's what it warrants. It warrants the time and effort.
Well, you're a sculptor at that point,
Well, you are, and you're creating, and that's a magical thing, because people will come with an idea and you develop that with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a few of those out there as well. So I mean, yeah, I'm a lucky guy. Yeah, very lucky.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. And I'm in a wonderful place. I wouldn't want to be in the UK at the moment. It's a bloody nightmare over there at the moment. But the governments and Brexits and just out of it. I mean, yeah, we got the aspects of the earthquakes and most recently, sadly, the volcano. But that's all natural events that you can't do nothing about.
No.
A lot of it in other countries are all events that people can change if they've got the mind to.
Yeah.
So you've been in Nelson area for a long time?
So we've been here for 20 years.
Yeah.
I started my building career down in Christchurch.
Yeah.
And before that, I actually lived on the west coast of the South Island.
Okay.
Down. And I actually worked in tourism for about 9 years.
Did you?
And then I had, during that period of time, is when I first sort of got into doing some building, bits and pieces. And before then, when I left school, I actually joined the Royal New Zealand Navy and went off and did my time in yeah,
How long
got
did
to
you
travel.
spend in that?
Just 3 years.
Yeah.
But,
Was it always going to be 3 years, or was it because you had nothing better to do?
Back then you sign up for 20 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, after 3 years, it had sort of run its course.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best time to be in the New Zealand military based on the
Really?
government at the time.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we had second-hand ships that had been bought from the Royal Navy.
Wow.
So
Not the best equipment.
yeah, and I was actually a marine mechanic as well. So
Okay.
obviously you're still training as your sort of roles evolve, but it wasn't really what I expected it to be.
Okay.
And I was in a situation where I enjoyed what I did and I'd enjoyed the experiences I had, but I didn't want to see myself there for the 20 years.
Okay.
So, and then part of that is internal drive to do something else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's funny because my dad was in the Navy. He did 32 years in the Royal Navy, as was my wife's dad. He was also a mechanic on a ship. But my dad was a chief writer and born in Plymouth, and he went all over the world. We didn't so much, but he did, and it was always a bugbear of my mum's when we'd be watching travel shows, and she said, "Oh, I'd like to go there," and Dad would say, "No, I've been there; it's horrible," and she would never get the chance. They travelled, but yeah, and he swore by it. He loved it, and that was his forte. To be, he said it was like a big family. Yeah. 2,000 people 2,000 men on the Ark Royal, and you're away for 9 months and whatever, and he said it just that self-esteem, and it just brings you out of yourself, and it is a family, and it revolves around, as you know, with the services, honesty, trust, being there when you're supposed to be there, time allocation, all the things that really turn around into the building trade.
Yeah.
And that is the core. If you can be honest with people and tell them whether you're coming or not, because there's so many people that I know. Time. Exactly. And just be honest, and if something's going wrong, tell them it's going wrong, because they appreciate it, rather than being surprised at the end of the job and think, "Oh, I didn't know about that." But and I like that bit. And I've never had I never had a bad payer in my life, which is crazy, really. 42 years.
That's good, real good.
Because I've always made sure they've got value for money. Again, to my own detriment at times. But it served me well, and if it's just my name they want, then I'm here. It's no problem.
Yeah.
But no, I love my job.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're certainly very passionate about it.
Yeah. I am, and I can bore people rigidly, actually, with some of the stories I've had. But yeah, generally it's going out there and doing the best you can. And if you can do it 100%, why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
why would you just think, "Oh, that'll do"?
Yeah.
Because that'll do never was any good.
No,
It wasn't yesterday. It won't be tomorrow. It's got to be right.
We have similar values as well. That if we're going to do something, we need to do it to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
And
yeah, have you got a large staff?
Currently, there is in the whole company. There's 7 of us.
Yeah.
So
All sorts of trades, or mostly carpenters?
all carpenters.
Yeah.
So, and all the guys who work for me have actually trained under my guidance as well. So,
Okay.
I have 2 qualified carpenters and 2 apprentices.
Yeah.
And it's a big thing for me for them to do their trade with me, because they understand our business values.
Yeah.
and the way we do things.
That's good, and they listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they've got
Yeah.
to, because they
Yeah.
don't have a job else.
And I've employed several people over the years, and you learn how to select people who are obviously going to be an important part of your team.
Yeah.
And and it's how do I put it? It's really nice to see people evolve and actually get to a point where, in some situations, somebody ends up being fussier than you.
Yeah.